Welcome to Daily Gossip. You will get daily Hollywood and royal updates here. Remember to subscribe for the latest videos. In the grand halls of Buckingham Palace, beneath the glittering chandeliers and behind the velvet curtains, there lived a monarch known around the globe as the epitome of grace, duty, and reserve. Queen Elizabeth II, the longest reigning monarch in British history, was the constant presence in an ever-changing world. Yet behind her stoic composure and her famously inscrutable expressions lay a woman with thoughts, judgments, emotions, and, as newly surfaced royal documents and recollections suggest, some of these thoughts were sharply candid, surprisingly direct, and deeply human.
常别是被斗的系列热，这些还讨好不些也谁要发些少谁发热一万嘛，我就是非实体。我的一些had precisely of but the nearby baby saying in it since Sunday it's the footage ran as fair all in.
What emerges is a fascinating portrait of a queen who, while bound by tradition and silence, saw and understood far more than we were ever led to believe. Let's begin with Lord Altrincham, real name John Grigg, the man who dared to criticize the Queen in 1957 and paid the price for it, not only publicly, but as it turns out, privately in her own mind. Altrincham was a journalist, an aristocrat, who published a scathing article accusing the Queen of sounding like a priggish schoolgirl during her public speeches. He called for modernization of the monarchy and suggested the Queen was out of touch with the people. At the time, his remarks sent shockwaves through Britain, and he was even physically assaulted by a monarchist on the street. But what did the Queen think? At the time, the palace dismissed his comments without engaging directly. But according to newly uncovered recollections and historical commentary, Queen Elizabeth reportedly referred to Altrincham in private as odious and self-important. Her words, while carefully measured, were firm. She allegedly felt personally wounded, not just by the critique itself, but by the betrayal of someone from her own class and background. It wasn't just political. It was personal, yet in classic Elizabethan fashion, she never retaliated publicly. She endured. Then there was James Pope-Hennessy, the acclaimed royal biographer, who penned one of the most important historical accounts of Queen Mary, Elizabeth's grandmother. His book, Queen Mary, is still considered one of the most detailed and sensitive portrayals of royal life. Yet behind closed doors, Elizabeth was said to be wary of him. Descriptions from private conversations revealed she found Pope-Hennessy to be clever but not trustworthy. While she admired his literary style and deep understanding of royal traditions, she was reportedly concerned that he might twist nuance into narrative. In fact, during interviews with the Queen Mother, it's said that Queen Elizabeth II privately warned her family to be careful around Pope-Hennessy, instructing aides to ensure certain stories didn't reach his pen. The Queen was respectful, yes, but never naive. She understood the power of perception and the threat of even the most elegant pen. But perhaps the most tender and complex revelations come when we examine Queen Elizabeth's private judgments regarding her husband, Prince Philip, the man he called her strength and stay. The public saw a long and enduring partnership, filled with duty and mutual respect. Yet within the private chambers of the palace, sources suggest the Queen often found herself at odds with Philip's bluntness and unpredictable comments. His legendary candor, sometimes bordering on offensive, was a source of discomfort for Elizabeth. In private, she was said to refer to him affectionately, but sometimes with exasperation, calling him impossible, infuriating, but also brilliant and essential. It's believed that during particularly turbulent times, like the controversies surrounding Prince Charles and Diana, or the fallout from Philip's occasional gaffes, Elizabeth would confide in her closest advisors about her frustration, but also her unwavering loyalty to Philip. She understood that his intentions were often misunderstood, that his sharp tongue masked a deep sense of duty and love for the crown. Their marriage, like any, had its difficulties. But in the Queen's eyes, Philip was irreplaceable. These insights have come to light not through gossip, but through a tapestry of historical documents, letters, biographies, and first-hand recollections. One such source includes the remarkable notes of James Pope-Hennessy himself, who left behind detailed impressions of his conversations and observations of the royal family in his unpublished diaries and letters, which have only recently been made available to scholars. He described Elizabeth as unfailingly polite but coolly observant. He noted her remarkable memory, her attention to detail, and her subtle but unmistakable wit. One such comment from the Queen about a foreign dignitary's visit reportedly went, "He speaks 5 languages, but has nothing to say in any of them." It was a rare glimpse into a monarch whose sense of humour was often masked by the burden of crown and country. Moreover, historians now believe that the Queen's private judgments weren't just reflections of personal feelings. They were tools of survival in a world where she was constantly watched, endlessly judged, and rarely allowed to express herself. These private thoughts allowed her to process and understand the world around her. Her judgments, sharp, restrained, thoughtful, show a monarch deeply engaged with the people and events of her time. She wasn't simply a figurehead. She was a shrewd observer of character, an active participant in the management of royal affairs, and a woman who knew exactly what was happening, even if she never said a word. Even in later years, her private assessments continued to shape her decisions. From the handling of Prince Andrew's scandals to her cautious acceptance of Meghan Markle into the royal fold, Elizabeth's silent opinions often guided the royal household's response. According to sources close to the palace, her judgment was always the final word, even if it was never publicly stated. She listened, reflected, and when necessary, acted. In fact, insiders claim that some of the most pivotal decisions during her reign, including how to navigate crises, were shaped not just by official briefings, but by her personal understanding of people's character. She had an internal compass, part instinct, part wisdom, that rarely failed her. These revelations have stirred emotional responses from the public. For decades, the Queen was seen as almost otherworldly, an icon more than a person. But now, as we uncover the private pages of her reign, we see a woman of depth, humour, and above all, humanity. She had opinions. She had frustrations. She had favourites and disappointments, but she kept them in check, controlled not by fear, but by duty. And that, more than any crown or title, was what defined her greatness. She understood the weight of silence. She wielded restraint as a form of power. And now, in the echoes of her words, heard only now after her passing, we understand her in ways we never could before. So what does this mean for the monarchy today? As King Charles takes on the mantle, and as Prince William prepares for his future, these private revelations serve as both a guide and a warning. The institution may evolve, but the wisdom of Queen Elizabeth II, her measured judgments, her emotional intelligence, her ability to see the truth behind the facade, remains a gold standard. Her legacy is not just in the decades she served, but in the quiet strength with which she navigated them. Her private thoughts remind us that even the most silent monarch can be the most insightful. This is the untold story of Queen Elizabeth II, the story of her inner world, revealed piece by piece, judgment by judgment, and heart by heart, a story that proves she was not just a queen for the ages, but a woman of remarkable perception, quiet courage, and enduring depth. Thanks for watching Daily Gossip. Subscribe now for more emotional, dramatic, and exclusive royal insights.